So, just to give you a little background where this came from, last year, I'm Janine. I'm a lead facilitator, one of the lead facilitators for jazz. And last September, I was doing some studies on different kinds of learning styles about differentiated instruction. And I actually didn't know anything about it before. As I read it, I just kept thinking about jazz. So what I did is I put together this little PowerPoint, and you may have flipped through it before, but we'll do it this time by talking. And it's really just kind of does a quick overview of what differentiated instruction is, and then how it applies to jazz, and then specifically how in the world can you use these principles to do your planning for your local time. And I think it addresses some of the issues that come up in jazz year after year. What do I do with local time? How do I Some of us who have been doing jazz for so long are so, we just kind of go with the flow. We can't, we even have, I think we have a hard time describing to newbies what exactly we're doing. Roxanne, you're probably the only one that will see that as well. I got them in. I clicked accept. So when somebody comes in a little bit late, we just have to click accept. I don't know why it doesn't come in automatically. I'm sure it's some setting with this meeting, but I'm using somebody else. Okay, so that's where this came from, and that's why this is optional. If you have your but I found it helpful, and hopefully you will too. So first of all, what are we talking about during jazz when we talk about local time? That is the time when the bridges might be hooked up, but there's not anything going on live. So depending on how you set up your schedule, that's 30 to 60 minutes before the 2-hour simulations in the morning. And Roxanne, maybe you want to throw in a link to one of the sample schedules. Those of you that are new and don't have the jazz schedule in your haven't been looking at it like I have and have forgotten it, you might want to look at that link. The time before simulations, then the time in between simulations and guest speakers, which usually includes lunch, but again depends on your time zones. And then the time between guest speakers and small group work, if that exists. There's one version of the June schedule where there is not actually time in between. And then 30 minutes at the end of the day, again depending on your schedule. But overall, you're going to have about 2 hours, 2.5 hours of local time. So what do you do during that time? This is where you can differentiate instruction, also where you help your participants in the rest of the jazz sessions. So with that little picture and background, let's talk about what differentiated instruction is. And the main learning that I had on this is Karen Tomlinson. You can see the reference at the bottom. I'm getting clicked from somebody. Who it is, but look down the bottom and make sure your mic is muted. So if you want to read more about it, definitely check out this gal. So at the basic, the idea is the teachers focus in, okay, what are the essential learning goals? What is it that everybody has to learn? And then they pay attention to student differences. These are all ways that students, including the teachers that come to our workshops, differ. And then assessment is used, it's going on all the time, and it's diagnostic to figure out, okay, how are they doing, what do they need, and so on. 3 bullets. What is differentiated instruction? So how do you differentiate? You modify either the content, the process, or the product. It would be the materials and mechanisms that they're ways that students demonstrate learning are all. And when do you modify? You modify the lesson when you see a student need, when the modification increases the likelihood that the learner will actually understand those essential ideas. differentiated instruction instructor is going to, an instructor who uses differentiated instruction is going to respect the readiness level of each student. So this means all the students to grow, that you offer students opportunity to explore at a difficulty that escalates consistently. That's the one that I'm like, okay, aim for, and offer all students equally interesting, important, and engaging. I think the really key one is the respecting the level of realizing that they all come in at different levels and not getting frustrated ones that might be a little lower, realizing. And there's lots of different ways to differentiate, and there's a whole slew of them listed. The way the instruction comes and the support. So how do we differentiate instruction in jazz? There's actually two ways that we do it. We differentiate by the lead facilitator is differentiating based on the new facilitator. So that's why when you first come in, you might have a little bit of a job. Then the next year you get even more of a job. And over time, we may tag you to be a lead facilitator. So our expectations of you change as we see you grow and as we. Then the other way is obviously all of you facilitating are going to differentiate instruction. I want to talk about how you would actually do that. So again, when we as the lead facilitators are differentiating for you, what does that look like? That means there's differing levels of preparation that we ask out of you, reviewing documents, updating materials, and so on. There's differing amounts of instruction that we have you actually do. Simulations, roll calls, leading the debriefs, maybe start off with something simple. Individual learning, so sometimes some facilitators ask more out of their lead facilitator than another. Help somebody get along, that's what's going on in that side. That's exactly right, Amy. But we are going to put you to work. All right, and then the daily debriefs, there's a lot of differentiating instruction that goes on there as we talk through the day, what went on. That's why it's really critical that you attend those. Thank you, Lori, for putting those that link in there. That's the schedule if you want to look at it to review again where. And the other way is that we encourage you to have a choice. You get a choice in what you cover in your local activity. And then, of course, we talked about this. The level of responsibility increases the longer you've been participating in jazz. We keep asking you to do more. How we, as the lead facilitators, differentiate for you, the facilitators. All right, so what happens during local activities? And I just threw some pictures in here that I thought it would be fun to just kind of some of the jokes and so on. Here you can see Roxanne is talking to Christy Rickert and getting some instruction. Then we have how do we differentiate for participants? So there's a couple of ways. One is choice and reflection responses. It's always good to give people, reflect on their day, but giving them some choice in there is always good. Choice in activities. Sometimes they want individual work time instead of constant instruction. Time to plan and sign up for video conferences. Providing resources to help them find video conferences for their curriculum. Adapting the instruction throughout the week as needed. All right, so here's some examples of how differentiation happens in jazz. We have, of course, the kinesthetic learning, visual learning, hands-on learning, small group presentations. Those are all very critical. It sounds like I've seen the schedule discussion going on the side. Maybe that needs to. Okay, so here's what it could look like. Everybody's working individually. Some people are getting some individual instruction. It might be that you're differentiating by letting the other participants think and you're resting. This is resting while the participants are watching video. This little joke with Paul's stylus. Paul is using his stylus. Sorry, Paul, had to get that little dig in there. And here's some more small group instruction. This looks like it's right before they are presenting. So again, just-in-time learning is another part of the whole idea of different. Sometimes you just have to say, what does everybody need? I heard you laugh, Lori. Here's an example of modeling the document camera. Again, as soon as they need it, that's when you want to teach them, because otherwise their brains aren't ready for it. Using the remote. All right, so now when you're thinking about your local activities, what do you need to do? First of all, what are the essential goals? We as the jazz participants and facilitators have some specific goals. Can somebody help Ashton? I think on the menu is an option for how to. I think, Lori, if you click on that button for hold to talk, it'll go off and it'll mute. Ashton is not hearing. I think there's somewhere on the menu, if somebody can help her with that. I don't know what it is. Meeting, manage my settings. Somebody send her in there so she can. All right, so what are the essential goals? What is it that we as the lead facilitators, and as you've done this for a while, hopefully want to make sure all the local participants get to know each other locally. Of course, everybody has their individual learning goals, so we want them to grow. We want them to learn the various collaboration tools, such as Google Docs. We want them to be aware of the different ways to find out about video conferencing resources. Roll calls. They need to discuss, process, and debrief whole group activities. And some need more time with this than others, and some of us are better at this than others. I always am amazed at how Roxanne does her debriefing, and we all learn in all of these areas. Reflecting on learning, that's some of the blogging, but also that happens as you discuss as a whole group. And then we just added last year to create an action plan. That's that quad sheet that you do on Friday where they kind of sort. What did I learn? What is it that I want to do next year? What was just like, yeah, that's interesting, but I will use that maybe next year, or something that you want to tell somebody else. That's in the handbook. Roxanne, you can correct. So those are the essential goals. Then you want to think about, okay, where are your participants at? Some of this you might know ahead of time. Other parts of it you're going to find as you start watching how they interact with their computer, how they interact with the people around them, and you want to adjust what's going on. Oh, quad sheet is not on the handbook. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't need to be. Well, yeah, I think it's in the detail facilitator sheet now, so it probably should. So, you're going to have some people who are very uncomfortable just even typing and using the mouse. Function and not get too frustrated. All right, we also have a variety. Longer, they need instruction even just in searching. And you have the people that are like Web 2. What? all the way to the people that are already tagging, blogging, using wikis on Twitter, and so on. So again, variety of skills. What is it that everybody needs to get out of it? Where is it that you can say, okay, you're really interested in this, go work on this. And somebody else are like, needs to go through the settings. Or maybe she doesn't have a speaker. I'm going to keep going. All right, then you have different levels of comfort level with video conferencing. So you might get some people who have no experience at all with a video conference. You might have some, and this happens to me all the time, come to the workshop, they're used to someone else running the equipment for them. So they just show up and do the instruction part, but they don't know anything about the remote. All the way to the level of, the tech coordinator for the district, the person who's the site facilitator, and is really comfortable with it. So again, you have quite a variety. And this is one of the reasons why we have those jobs. So people can learn it if they want, or if they're good at it and want to practice it. That gives them something extra to think about so that board while the newbies are still learning. Another area that you want to assess your participants is what is it that they teach. In some cases, you have particularly they are going to use video conferencing for one subject area. So then they're going to need help seeing how is it that this Math Marvels applies to my high school geography class or whatever. So they're going to need a little extra attention. Then you have people who teach all subjects at elementary. Obviously, jazz, a lot of jazz is going to be making. And then the people that are supporting all the subjects, they have a different take on it as well. So now, another thing to think about is what your goals are. I know in particular, some of you have things that you use in your district, or might be some things that are critical for you. I want to make sure everybody covers this. Twitter. I rarely do because most of my teachers are what and probably aren't going to use it anytime soon. About that as well. What is it that you want to cover? And then review what's essential. Absolutely. I want to make sure everybody absolutely gets this done so that you have an idea of, this is kind of optional. Other people are doing this, but I'm not going to because my people don't need that. Or that's the kind of thinking that you want to be doing as you. Then the next piece you need to figure out is how are you going to organize yourself? And again, there's a lot of variety here. Some people use a PowerPoint to just make a list of options and people work through those activities. Board. Some people use super links page that has a lot of things on it, so you can just send them there. So look through here. Or we have people who have liked to make their own wiki so that they can make everything in the order they want people to do it. Again, I tend to just make a list of stuff I want to cover, see how it goes throughout the week. And then I like to ask them, hey, how are you guys doing? Do you want me to teach you something new? Did you see something? Did somebody talk about something you want to cover? Or do you want me to just leave you alone? And lots of times it's like, leave me alone. I've got stuff I'm working on. I need some time. Those are some strategies. And I want to stop now and see if there's any other facilitators who have done this before who want to share your strategy for how you organize your local. If you don't have the mic and you want it, let me know. Right now, Ken has the mic. One who has the mic. Want to add anything, Ken? Or anybody else? Just write in the chat if you want me to give you power to say something. Everybody's just thinking, oh, no headset. Well, that would be an issue. I guess the other thing I'll say here then is if you're not sure, talk to the other facilitators in your group who have done jazz before. and also talk to your lead facilitator. I think another thing that changes how people do local activities is personality. Some people are more control of what's going on, and others go with the flow. I would encourage all of you to make sure that you are paying attention to your participants to see what they need and not just trying to cover a list of things. If people are for the clues, are their eyes glazed over? Do they need time to just think and look on their computer, do some searching? Right, and then I think I said this already, but I'll say it again. Plan time to collaboratively plan the local time with your participants. So ask them, what questions do you have? What tools have you heard about that you want to know more about? How do you want to spend this instruction time? This is the one I always use all the time. Do you want to learn more, or do you want to just keep individually working, exploring? Like, brain full? Or how are you doing? Are you ready for me to teach you something new? What would you like it to be? And just getting that feedback from the participants is. We have a couple of things in here that I think I just want to say so that this gets in. Make sure everybody sees that gets recorded. I make a list like you. This is Ashton. I get frustrated when I have so many different lists. Ask them what was confusing from the day. Sorry, that's I definitely do that too. Thursday and Friday, where it's like, okay, how are you guys doing? Do you need any more information? Is your brain completely full? What is it? I think that's where you want to figure out which people have room for more. If there's a couple, Ashton, you might say to them, hey, go try this out. Just send them off on something. And the people that and Paul, that's exactly at the, policies, local procedures for scheduling. I mean, one of the reasons why we leave it so open-ended, minus a few things that you need to cover, because everybody has different things that they need to cover. And all right, so what kind of supports are available for your local time? These are some of the things that you can use. As you know, there's the cap space scavenger hunt, the job tents and job posters. Sometimes everybody ends up doing some of those things. Rickert made a PowerPoint last year for organizing your local time. She uses a wiki. There's also all kinds of optional handouts for tools like wikis, Blogster, Twitter, and one that you're like, oh, we should have a handout for this, or I'm definitely using this handout and no one has made one. There's a reflection PowerPoint that helps you if you want to put up the questions on the slide. Some blog, writing all those questions onto the blog. I'll just say, when you are doing the full 2-hour overview of the whole week with your lead facilitator, the Monday before your session, go over where things are on the website. If you files section, you will find different areas. Again, I do want to emphasize, this is how you assist in Jazz, is you go, hey, we should have a handout for this. Hey, there isn't one. I'm going to make one. So that's what we're hoping you will do the longer you're in Jazz. All right, another thing you need to decide is what to print, what to use online. Especially this year, the handbook is about half the size as it. Thank you, Roxanne, for throwing those links in there. There's a whole slew of local activities materials that are not going to get printed automatically in the handbook. So you're going to need to decide which are you going to which activities are you going to which activities are you comfortable teaching? Which are the ones that you want them just to look at when they have time? Which ones are optional and which ones are essential? That's really part of the piece of differentiated instruction is how exactly, what's essential? What do we absolutely have to cover? That's the piece you focus on. And then in those, you can give people the ability to choose to decide, I want to work on this. And then, of course, if you're confused, talk to your lead facilitator, another JAS facilitator, you know whether you're in, learn from other people. I definitely want you to have the support that you need. So ask if you're having trouble. And a few resources if you want to learn more about differentiated instruction, some websites, and of course the books by Carol. End. So very quick overview. Let's go to questions, comments. No, this didn't have to, we didn't know how long it would actually take, but I think a half an hour is actually really good because I'm going to stop recording.